Donald Trump's meeting with President Zelensky today in the Oval Office marked the absolute low point of his presidency and maybe one of the most humiliating moments in American history. But there was so much more to unpack and so much that revealed what Donald Trump is looking to do in support of his puppet master, Vladimir Putin. And we saw that in particular with how he responded to Kaitlan Collin when asking about a potential minerals deal that it looks like Trump is taking off the table. Now, we are going to get into all of that and how Trump just started attacking Collins. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into that clip, I first want to check out a couple of things Jessica Tarlov had to say in response to Trump, because I think it provides some important context.
But the idea that Zelensky, whose people have fought bravely for 3 years against a authoritarian adversary that invaded, that has taken an advantage at every single turn, has been nothing but a patriot, said even just last weekend that he would resign if it meant that they could get into NATO, right? That was after the accusation from President Trump, J.D. Vance, et cetera, that he was the one who's a dictator, that he was the one that it was Ukraine's fault that all of this happens, when we all know, or anyone who's being honest, that it was definitely Putin's fault. And Jesse's right. The moment where Zelensky gets animated is when J.D. Vance asks him to just take it, to just sit there and go along with the idea that Vladimir Putin wasn't the aggressor in this, or the idea that Vladimir Putin is a diplomatic partner. Vladimir Putin is not a diplomatic partner for anybody. So you had a patriotic world leader defending his people and defending the thousands of lives, tens of thousands of lives that have been lost to all of this.
Neither Stalin, neither's Mao. Sometimes you have to do deals with bad guys.
But
Jessica.
he's not. America in life has done some deals with some bad guys, but that isn't what's going on here. And
so you have somebody, and it's been going on for a long time, where you have this person who is bilking the American taxpayers for hundreds of billions of dollars, and most Americans can't really tell you what our interest is over there.
Can I just add to that about the money and all of this? Obviously, we have given them a ton of money, but 70% of the aid that we have sent to Ukraine has then been spent back in America. So when he, quote unquote, went and campaigned for the Democrats, that he was visiting a munitions factory that was producing weapons that they could then use. And Europe has been, as a share of GDP, almost doubling our investment.
So I'm not an economist, but the idea that you're going to take hundreds of billions of dollars of Americans' taxpayer dollars and light them on fire in Europe, I don't think that helps anybody. All it does is lead to inflation.
All right, save for the next block, because we've got more.
And Donald Trump revealed himself. I thought the most shocking part was that Trump goes on to say, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt. And people have been saying since the beginning of this, since Donald Trump came on the world stage, that he is aligned with Putin. We saw in Helsinki in 2018 when he stood up there and he sided with Putin over the intelligence agencies. He says, well, Putin told me he didn't do it. He told me he didn't meddle in the election. And then are you comfortable with an American president saying Putin went through a hell of a lot with me? Are they buddies?
I went through a hell of a lot with you, Jessica, with the Russia.
Okay, making a joke of it means that I made a valid point, just for the viewers at home.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Take it to Charlie.
So it was that specific clip at the end that Putin went through a lot of things with Trump, something he reiterated, as you'll see in the clip with Kaitlan Collin when asked about a potential deal or whether Putin would invade Ukraine once again if peace was ever reached. It really indicates how Donald Trump feels about Putin and where this situation is. But first, let's take a look at Trump's attack on Kaitlan Collin.
Minerals are in the east of Ukraine, not far from the front lines and in areas that Russia has occupied. Will you direct President Putin to withdraw his forces from those areas if there's U.S. interest there?
Well, we'll take a look at the time. We have a lot of area. It's a very big area we're talking about, so we'll take a look. I'll study that and I'll see.
And who would protect those minerals if they are U.S. interest? Would that be Ukrainian forces, European forces?
The agreement will protect them.
U.S. forces?
The agreement, yeah, we're signing an agreement. You know?
Right, but what if Russia tries to invade or there's Russian aggression in those spots? What would you do?
I just told you I don't think that's going to happen. And if that were going to happen, I wouldn't make a deal. If I thought that was going to happen, I wouldn't make a deal.
Some people may wonder why.
You know, they ought to focus on CNN on survival not asking me these ridiculous questions.
Why you have confidence that Putin won't violate
Focus
a
on
deal?
surviving, because CNN's got such low ratings. I don't think they're going to survive.
People will ask why you have confidence Putin won't violate the deal.
I already mentioned Poland. Poland was
So incredibly clear, Donald Trump does not like being pressed on his relationship with Putin, even though he's always happy to talk about it and praise him. And he's been very clear that he has a lot more trust in Putin than Zelensky, a dictator rather than our ally. Seems strange, but I guess that's Trump. But to respond and say you should be worried about CNN's ratings just goes to show the disregard that Trump and conservatives really at large have for this situation. They don't care. And we know that. But what I think is important to point out here is that it is the same type of not caring that we see in Elon Musk's actions in the Department of Government Efficiency. They don't care because they don't understand what they're breaking because they are too stupid. Donald Trump does not understand the importance of our allies. He doesn't understand the importance of the relationships we form through USAID. He doesn't understand foreign policy. He is a stupid, stupid person who is easily swayed with flattery. That is what this is all about. They don't know what they're doing, and they don't care. That is why they're taking the action they are. It is important that we point that out, that they fundamentally misunderstand government. They want to say that it's broken because they don't understand what it does to improve your life. Full stop. And there is, of course, a lot more to unpack about all that happened today, and I think Senator Mark Kelly did a great job doing so.
And this is a gift to Putin. And make no mistake, and I hope the American people get this, that this makes us look weak, and it's not normal behavior. The United States, Chris, we are a superpower. Our powers, our military, our economy, our diplomatic corps, our professionalism. This was not professional. We don't gain anything by acting like bullies. And this is what bullies do. And just because you act this way, by the way, it doesn't mean that you're tough. So this is a mess. I hope we can repair this relationship. President Zelensky and his country, they are grateful. You know, saying thank you in the Oval Office, being put on the spot like that is, it seemed to me that it was just, J.D. Vance saying, hey, look what I can do, Dad. And it doesn't help the situation. This negotiation should have been done behind closed doors. And this morning we had a good meeting, Democrats and Republicans in the Senate that support Ukraine. We had a good meeting with the president. We talked about a lot of issues. We didn't do it in front of cameras intentionally. Roger Wicker, in fact, asked, there were some cameras there, and we had them leave the room before we started to have the discussion. That's the way you should do this.
So let me ask you then about where this goes from here. And I wonder where you think your Republican colleagues will be, because, and I can't say that I have done an exhaustive search because I've been on the air, but I've only seen one Republican member of Congress, who is a member of the House, say anything negative about what they just saw in the Oval Office. And where does this go from here? And does Congress have any role in it at all?
Well, we have a role. I mean, we do our own negotiations. We do our own diplomacy, so to speak. So we do have a role. We can push the administration. Hopefully we can get them to come back to the negotiating table here. But we are in a much worse position. Our European allies especially are looking at this and they're thinking to themselves, I mean, what just happened? What happened to the United States of America that used to be the leader of the free world? And, I pointed out in our meeting this morning, that I was rather disappointed that our country, we're about to celebrate our 250th birthday, which is a big deal and it's exciting. But now we're dealing with one of our allies like this is a business transaction. I mean, that's not the way we have traditionally done things. And so where do we go from here? I think the president and the vice president need to figure out how do they pick up the pieces from this total disaster and get back to the table and negotiate in a way that is who we are as a nation. I mean, we have principles, we have values. and we don't berate our allies in the Oval Office. I've never seen anything like this before. And throughout our entire history, there have been a lot of tense negotiations between countries. We don't do this in public. This did not get us anything. And I think it's important for the American people to understand, because of what happened today, we are all less safe. And I'll tell you, there was one winner in this, Chris, one winner. And if you watch Russian TV tonight or tomorrow morning, you will see that they're going to cover this. They're going to be happy about this. Putin and his cronies are probably popping champagne bottles right now.
We should also do a fact check, even though I don't think most people need a fact check, but I'll say it anyway. In spite of what President Trump has refused to say, Russia invaded Ukraine. Vladimir Putin made a decision to go into a sovereign nation, and innocent people have died. Tens of thousands of people have died, including women and children, not to mention the number of soldiers who have died.
He targets schools and hospitals. He is a war criminal. And we have members of this government, Donald Trump's government, that won't admit that Russia invaded Ukraine, even though you can clearly see, I mean, tanks, armored personnel carriers, troops, weapons coming across the border 3 years ago. If Russia didn't invade Ukraine, who was that? And they refuse to acknowledge what are facts. We do not have to fact check that.
And it is for that reason that the United States has been a staunch ally and has done a lot of work to get our allies together to support Ukraine. Arizona, your state, has played an important role. They've served as a training base for Ukrainian pilots. I know you've talked to them. What does it mean to Ukraine? What does it mean to them to have less support in the U.S. in this fight?
I've met with Ukrainian pilots in this office, one of which is now deceased, flying in combat in the F-16. I've met with them at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. They are just fighting. They're fighting for their lives, literally. And the reason we're in this is not just to help Ukraine. This is in our own national security best interest.
Donald Trump has turned his back on America. And it's not the first time, of course, but really since January 6th, this seems like the most stark example of a complete abandonment of liberal ideas, of caring about democracy, of America's standing on the world stage. I don't want to say fortunately on January 6th, it was only 2 weeks till Biden was sworn in. We got 4 years of this guy. And so it is up to us to push back against him, to maintain some semblance of respect for this country on the world stage. We're going to be calling him out every single day. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.